Please, it's...
Please, it's a mistake. What have you done to my car?
The billionaire Leonard Kingsley stepped out of his G-Wagon and froze. The front headlight was shattered. Deep scratches ripped across the glossy black body of his luxury car. The entire construction site fell into dead silence. Workers stopped breathing. Tools slipped from trembling hands. Then Leonard slowly lifted his eyes. Standing before him was Amara Williams, a frail, dust-covered woman gripping a rusty wheelbarrow. Her clothes were torn. Her hands were shaking. A small baby was tied securely to her back, sleeping peacefully, unaware that his mother's life might be destroyed in the next few seconds. Rage flashed across Leonard's face. Everyone waited. For the shouting. For the guards. For the police. But the moment Leonard's eyes locked onto Amara's face, his fury cracked. Because he knew her. And in that terrifying, breathless moment, the most powerful man on the site realized the woman kneeling before him was the same girl whose life he once shattered, and the child on her back was his son. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop a comment to support emotional stories like this. Now sit back, relax, and let me tell you how pain, guilt, and love collided in the most unexpected way. Morning came quietly to the slum, like it was afraid to wake the people who lived there. The sky was still dark, heavy with grey clouds, and the narrow paths between the broken houses were wet with last night's rain. The smell of smoke, refuse, and old water hung in the air. Dogs searched through trash piles, and somewhere in the distance, a baby cried. Inside a small room made of cracked blocks and rusted zinc, Amara woke before the sun. She lay still for a moment, listening to the sound of coughing beside her. It was rough and dry, the kind of cough that came from deep inside the chest and refused to stop. "Daniel," she whispered. She pushed herself up from the thin mat on the floor. Her body ached, but she ignored it. There was no time for tiredness. She reached for a small plastic bottle near the wall. It was almost empty. She poured a little water into a bowl, dipped her hands inside, and gently washed her face. The water was cold, but it helped clear her mind. She wiped her face with the edge of her worn dress and tied her hair back. She turned to her brother. Daniel lay on his side, wrapped in a faded blanket that had once been blue. He was only 14, but sickness had stolen the strength from his body. His cheeks were sunken, his lips dry and cracked. His breathing was uneven, and every few seconds, his chest shook with another cough. Amara knelt beside him and placed her hand on his forehead. "You're burning again," she said softly. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. They were tired, but when he saw her, he tried to smile. "Good morning, big sister." Her heart broke at the sound of his weak voice. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked. "A little," he lied, then coughed again. He turned his face away quickly. "Don't worry about me." Amara helped him sit up and held a small cup to his lips. "Drink this," she said. "Just a little." Daniel shook his head. "You should save it. You need it more than I do." She forced the cup closer. "Please, Daniel, do this for me." He obeyed, taking a few small sips before lying back down. His breathing grew shallow again. "Amara," he said after a moment, staring at the ceiling. "Did the hospital say anything?" Her hands froze. She looked away, pretending to adjust the blanket. They said you'll be fine if you rest." Daniel was quiet. Then he spoke again, his voice filled with fear. "You're lying." Tears burned in Amara's eyes, but she blinked them away. "I just need to get some money today," she said quickly. "Once I do, everything will be okay." Daniel reached for her hand, his fingers weak around hers. "Don't do anything bad for me," he whispered. "I don't want you to suffer because of me." Amara knelt closer and pressed her forehead against his. "You are my brother," she said, her voice shaking. "If I lose you, I lose everything." Daniel closed his eyes, another cough shaking his body. "I'm scared," he said quietly. "I know," Amara replied, brushing his hair gently. "But I'm here. I won't leave you." Outside, the sky slowly began to brighten, but inside the small room, fear and desperation sat heavy in the air. Amara looked around the empty space, at the bare walls and the cold floor, and felt the weight of a world that kept asking her for more than she had. She stood up slowly, wiping her face. "I'll be back soon," she said, forcing a smile. "Just wait for me, Daniel." As she stepped outside into the waking slum, Her heart whispered a prayer she was afraid might never be answered. The hospital smelled of medicine and fear. The white walls were dull and cracked, nothing like the clean places Amara once imagined hospitals to be. The benches in the hallway were full of tired faces, mothers holding crying babies, old men staring into space, people waiting for miracles they could not afford. Amara stood at the nurse's desk, clutching a small brown envelope. Her hands were shaking. Inside it was nothing, just old papers and hope that had already died. "Please," she said softly, "can I see my brother?" The nurse did not look at her at first. She flipped through a file, her face hard and tired. "Name?" she asked. "Daniel Williams," Amara replied quickly. "Bed 7. The nurse stopped flipping. She lifted her eyes and looked straight at Amara. "Are you the sister?" "Yes," Amara nodded. "I'm his only family." The nurse sighed and closed the file. "Madam, the bill has not been paid," she said coldly. "You were told yesterday." Amara's heart began to race. "I know," she said quickly. "I'm trying. I swear I'm trying. Please, just let him continue the treatment." Another nurse joined them, folding her arms. "Trying is not enough," she said. "This is a hospital, not a charity home." Amara felt her throat tighten. "He's very sick," she whispered. "If you stop the drugs, he will die." The first nurse shook her head. "We have rules. If payment is not made today, we will remove him from the ward." The words hit Amara like a slap. "Remove him. Take him away." Her mind screamed. "Where will I take him? To the streets? To our empty room? To death?" She stepped back, her legs weak. Her inner voice trembled inside her head. "God, please. I'm begging you. Just one miracle. Just one." She wiped her eyes quickly and walked down the hallway to Daniel's bed. He was lying there, thinner than ever, a drip hanging from his arm. His eyes opened when he saw her. "Amara," he said faintly. "You came back." She forced a smile and sat beside him. "Of course I did," she said. "How are you feeling?" He tried to speak, but a cough took over his body. Amara held his hand tightly until it passed. "Did they give you the medicine?" he asked. She hesitated. Yes, they did." Daniel looked at her closely. "You're lying again." Her lips trembled. "Please don't talk," she said. "Save your strength." Just then, a doctor walked in, holding a clipboard. He glanced at Daniel, then at Amara. "Are you his sister?" he asked. "Yes, doctor," Amara replied, standing up quickly. "Please, how is he?" The doctor sighed. "His condition is serious," he said. "He needs immediate treatment. Stronger drugs. Maybe even surgery." Amara's heart jumped. "Then please do it," she said. "Please save him." The doctor looked at her sadly. "Madam," he said gently, "have you paid the bills?" Her mouth went dry. "Not yet," she whispered. "But I will. I promise." The doctor's voice hardened. "I'm sorry, but promises won't help him." Tears rolled down Amara's face. "Doctor, I'm begging you," she cried. "He's all I have. I'll do anything." The doctor paused, then spoke the words that broke her completely. "Bring the money today," he said slowly, clearly, "or take him home." The room went silent. Amara felt the world spin. She grabbed the bed rail to steady herself. Her heart screamed, her mind went blank. Take him home. Home to what? To wait for death? She fell to her knees beside Daniel's bed, pressing her forehead against his hand. Her lips moved silently as tears dropped onto the floor. "God, please don't take him from me. Please don't punish me like this. I'll do anything. Anything." Daniel squeezed her hand weakly. "Amara," he whispered. "It's okay." "No," she said through tears. "It's not okay. I won't let you go." Outside the ward, the nurses watched her quietly, already preparing to follow orders. And time, cruel, heartless time, kept moving forward. Amara left the hospital with her heart bleeding. The sun was high now, but she felt cold inside. Her feet moved without direction as she walked past the gates, past the noise of the street, past people living normal lives. All she could hear in her head was the doctor's voice. "Bring the money today. Or take him home." She stopped near a small food shed beside the road and sat on a broken wooden bench. Her hands shook as she pressed them together. Today, she thought. Where will I get such money today? Amara. She looked up slowly. It was Ngozi and Ruth, two girls she sometimes worked with at the market. They were carrying baskets of vegetables on their heads. You look like a ghost, Ngozi said, dropping her basket. What happened? Amara tried to speak, but her voice failed her. Tears filled her eyes again. Please, Ruth said gently, sitting beside her. Tell us. My brother is dying, Amara whispered. The hospital said they will stop his treatment if I don't pay today. Ngozi sucked in her breath. How much? Amara mentioned the amount. Both girls went quiet. That money. Ruth shook her head slowly. Amara, that's too much. Amara bowed her head. I know. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ngozi leaned closer and lowered her voice. There is someone. Amara lifted her head. Someone. Ngozi looked around carefully before speaking. A very rich man. Powerful. His name is Leonard Kingsley. Amara frowned. Who is that? Ruth shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knows him, she said. He's a billionaire. Owns companies, lands, buildings. Ngozi nodded. They say when girls are in trouble, he helps them. Amara's heart jumped. He helps them? She asked quickly. Ngozi hesitated. Yes, but not for free. Ruth grabbed Ngozi's arm. You shouldn't say this, she whispered. Amara leaned forward, her eyes wide. Please, she said. Tell me. Ngozi sighed deeply. Girls say if you go to him and explain your problem, he will give you money. Big money. Amara stood up suddenly. Then that's it, she said. I'll go. Ruth stood too and shook her head fast. No, Amara. You don't understand. What don't I understand? Amara asked, her voice breaking. My brother is dying. Ngozi spoke softly now. He doesn't help with a clean heart, she said. He asks for things. Amara's chest tightened. What kind of things? Ruth looked away. He sleeps with them. The words hung in the air. Amara felt dizzy. No, she whispered. I can't. Ngozi touched her hand. Many girls regret going, she said. Some leave crying. Ruth added, some never forgive themselves. Amara closed her eyes. Fear wrapped around her heart, but another thought was louder. Daniel lying on a hospital bed, struggling to breathe. If I don't go, Amara said slowly, my brother will die. Ruth's eyes filled with tears. We know, she said. But we don't want you to lose yourself too. Amara opened her eyes and looked at them. Her voice was calm, but her heart was breaking. I have nothing else to lose. Ngozi whispered, Amara, please think. I have thought, Amara replied. Every night. Every prayer. Every tear. She picked up her small bag and tied it tightly. I'm scared, she admitted. But fear won't save Daniel. Ruth hugged her tightly. If anything happens to you. Amara hugged her back. Pray for me, she said softly. As she walked away, her steps were heavy, but her decision was made. Desperation had silenced fear, and love was pushing her toward a door she never wanted to open. Amara stopped in front of the small wooden box under her bed. Her hands trembled as she opened it slowly. Inside, wrapped in a piece of old cloth, was her last possession, the thin gold necklace her mother had left behind before she died. It was not expensive, but it was precious. It was the only thing that still made her feel like she had a family. She held it up, letting it rest on her palm. Mama, she whispered, her throat tight. Please forgive me. She remembered her mother's voice clearly. No matter how poor you are, protect your dignity, Amara. That voice echoed painfully in her heart. She closed her eyes, tied the necklace carefully in the cloth, and stood up. Outside, she met Ruth again near the roadside. Amara, you're still going? Ruth asked, panic in her voice. Amara nodded. I have to. Ruth looked at the cloth in her hand. What is that? My mother's necklace, Amara replied softly. Ruth's eyes widened. You can't sell that. I can, Amara said quietly. And I will. They walked together to a small roadside jewelry buyer. The man barely looked at Amara before naming a price that insulted the necklace's worth. "That's all I can pay," he said flatly. Amara swallowed her pride. "Please," she said. "Just give me something." The man shrugged and counted the money. As he took the necklace from her hand, Amara felt something tear inside her chest. She turned away quickly so no one would see her cry. Ruth grabbed her arm. "This is not right," she said. "You're giving up everything." "I already lost everything," Amara replied. "This is just the last piece." With the money, she paid for transport. As the vehicle moved, Amara sat by the window, staring at the road but seeing nothing. Her heart raced as her mind rehearsed her words again and again. "Sir, please help me. My brother is dying. Sir, I just need one chance. Sir, I will pay you back. I promise." She wiped her face and whispered to herself, "Nothing bad will happen. I will just talk. I will beg. That's all." She held her hands together tightly, as if holding onto something invisible. Her innocence felt fragile, like glass, but she clung to it with everything she had. "I will not lose myself," she promised silently. "I will only ask for help." As the car drove closer to the wealthy area, fear rose in her chest, but desperation pushed it down. Her brother's face filled her mind. His weak smile. His cough. "Just today," she whispered. "Just today, God." And with that prayer, Amara stepped closer to the moment that would change her life forever. The gate opened slowly, revealing a world Amara had only seen in dreams. The mansion stood tall and proud, painted in white and gold, surrounded by flowers she could not name. The ground was clean, shining. Everything smelled expensive. Quiet. Perfect. Amara stood at the entrance, her heart pounding. Her slippers were dusty. Her dress was faded and torn at the edge. She felt small, dirty, out of place. A guard looked her up and down. "What do you want?" he asked sharply. I'm here to see Mr. Leonard Kingsley," Amara said, her voice shaking. The guard laughed softly. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," she replied. "But please, tell him Amara is here. Just tell him." The guard studied her for a moment, then sighed and spoke into his phone. After a while, he stepped aside. "You have 5 minutes," he said. "Don't waste his time." Inside, the air was cold. The floors were marble. Paintings hung on the walls. Amara held her bag tightly, afraid to touch anything. She was led into a large sitting room. Leonard Kingsley sat on a leather chair, calm and relaxed, dressed in expensive clothes. His face was handsome but hard. His eyes held no warmth. He looked at her like she was nothing more than a problem brought into his day. "Speak," he said coldly. "I don't have time." Amara swallowed. "Sir, my name is Amara. My brother is very sick. He's dying. The hospital said if I don't pay today, they will stop his treatment." Leonard leaned back, his fingers tapping lightly on the arm of the chair. "And?" he asked. "I heard you help people," she said quickly. "Please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back." Leonard smiled faintly, but there was no kindness in it. "Everyone says that," he replied. "Do you know how many desperate girls come here every week?" Amara dropped to her knees. "Please, sir," she cried. "I don't have anyone else." He looked at her for a long moment, then stood up slowly. "I can help you," he said calmly. Hope rushed into her heart. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." "But," Leonard continued, his voice flat, "nothing is free." Her heart skipped. "What do you mean?" she asked, already afraid. He stepped closer. "You know exactly what I mean." Amara shook her head violently. "No, no, please. I've never been with a man before," she cried. "I'm still a virgin. Please don't ask me this." Leonard's eyes did not change. "That's not my problem." Tears streamed down her face. "My brother is dying," she said again. "Please. I'll clean your house. I'll work for you. Anything but this." Leonard checked his watch. "Time is passing," he said. "Decide." Her mind screamed. Her heart felt like it would burst. She saw Daniel's face, heard his cough, remembered the doctor's words. "Bring the money today, or take him home." Amara closed her eyes and sobbed. God, she whispered. Forgive me. When it was over, Leonard stepped away without a word. He picked up his phone and typed calmly. There, he said. The money has been sent to the hospital. Amara sat on the floor, shaking. Her body felt heavy. Her soul felt empty. Leonard did not look at her again. You can go, he said casually. She stood slowly, fixing her torn dress with trembling hands. No comfort. No apology. No care. As she walked out of the mansion, the world felt darker than before. She had saved her brother, for now, but lost herself in the process. And the gate closed behind her, swallowing her pain in silence. Amara ran. She ran out of the mansion, her legs shaking, her chest burning, her eyes blinded by tears. The world around her felt unreal, like she was floating outside her body. She jumped into the first vehicle she saw, clutching her bag to her chest like it could keep her together. To the hospital, she cried. Please, go fast. The driver looked at her tear-stained face and nodded. Hold on, he said, pressing the accelerator. As the car moved, Amara kept checking her phone. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped it. The money has been sent, Leonard had said. It's done. But fear would not leave her heart. Please, Daniel, she prayed silently. Hold on just a little longer. I'm coming. I did it. I paid the price. Please don't leave me. When the car finally stopped, she threw the door open before it fully parked. She ran through the hospital gate, ignoring the stairs, ignoring the pain between her legs, ignoring everything except one thing, her brother. She burst into the ward. Daniel, she screamed. Daniel. The nurses turned to look at her. Their faces were not angry this time. They were quiet. Too quiet. A doctor stepped forward slowly. He did not smile. Her heart dropped. Where is my brother? Amara asked, her voice cracking. I paid. The money has been sent. Please, check. I paid. The doctor sighed and shook his head. Amara laughed weakly. No, she said. No, don't shake your head. I paid. Ask them. Please. A nurse looked away. Where is he? Amara shouted now. Where is my brother? The doctor spoke softly, but his words were sharp like knives. I'm sorry. He didn't make it. The world stopped. What? Amara whispered. No, no, you're lying. She ran past him to Daniel's bed. He was lying still. Too still. No coughing. No breathing. No weak smile waiting for her. Daniel, she whispered, touching his face. It was cold. Daniel, wake up. I'm here. She shook him gently. I brought the money. You can breathe now. Please, wake up. Nothing. Amara screamed. A sound so loud and painful that everyone in the ward froze. She collapsed beside the bed, clutching his lifeless body. I came back, she cried. I did what you asked. I paid the money. Why didn't you wait for me? Nurses tried to pull her away, but she fought them. This is my fault, she screamed. I was too slow. I failed you. I promised I wouldn't leave you. Her friends, Ngozi and Ruth, who had rushed to the hospital after hearing the news, stood at the doorway, crying silently. We warned her, Ruth whispered through tears. God, we warned her. Amara pressed her forehead against Daniel's chest. I sold everything, she sobbed. I lost myself for you. And still, I still lost you. The doctor spoke gently. We were preparing to resume treatment, but his body couldn't hold on any longer. Amara laughed bitterly through tears. So the money came late, she said. Just like everything in my life. She looked at her hands, shaking, empty. This money, she whispered, is cursed. She screamed again, a sound filled with pain, guilt, and regret. The hospital walls echoed with her sorrow. And in that moment, Amara realized the cruel truth. She had paid the highest price, and still lost everything. Weeks passed, but time did not heal Amara. It only made the pain quieter and heavier. She moved through her days like a shadow, waking up, breathing, sleeping, without feeling alive. Daniel was gone. The room felt empty. The silence spoke louder than noise. One morning, Amara woke with a strange feeling in her stomach. It twisted and rolled like waves. She rushed outside and vomited behind the house. Her body shook as she wiped her mouth. Maybe it's stress, she whispered to herself. Maybe it's grief. But the sickness did not stop. Days passed, and it got worse. The smell of food made her dizzy. Her head ached. Her body felt weak. At night, she lay awake, pressing her hands to her stomach, fear growing quietly inside her. Ngozi noticed first. Amara, you don't look well, she said one afternoon, handing her a cup of water. You've been throwing up every day. I'm fine, Amara replied quickly. I just need rest. Ruth frowned. This is not normal, she said gently. When was your last monthly flow? The question hit Amara like a slap. She went still. I don't remember, she whispered. Ngozi and Ruth exchanged a look. No, Amara said quickly, shaking her head. No, it can't be that. Ruth touched her arm. Amara, we should check. I said no. Amara snapped, her voice breaking. Please. But fear had already entered her heart. That evening, Amara sat alone in the dark, counting days on her fingers. Her breathing became fast. Her chest felt tight. God, please no, she prayed silently. I can't carry this too. The next morning, Ruth dragged her gently to a small clinic. It's just to be sure, Ruth said softly. We are here with you. Amara sat on the bench, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. The nurse returned after a few minutes, holding a paper. Congratulations, the nurse said. You're pregnant. The words did not make sense. Pregnant. Amara stared at her. No, she whispered. You're wrong. I'm sorry, the nurse replied. The test is clear. The room began to spin. Pregnant meant memories she was trying to bury. Pregnant meant Leonard. Pregnant meant pain that refused to leave her. She stood up suddenly and walked outside, gasping for air. Ruth followed, wrapping her arms around her. I can't do this, Amara cried. I can't. Ngozi joined them, tears in her eyes. Amara, listen to us, she said softly. You don't have to keep it. Amara shook her head slowly. Her eyes were empty. I don't feel anything, she said. I'm not happy. I'm not sad. I'm just empty. Ruth spoke carefully. Raising a child alone will be hard. People will talk. Life is already cruel. I know, Amara whispered. Ngozi added, You've suffered enough. Don't let this destroy you too. Amara placed her hand on her stomach. Inside her was a life growing from pain. From shame. From desperation. My brother is gone, she said quietly. If I end this too, what will be left of me? Ruth cried softly. Amara, I'm scared, Amara admitted. I'm confused. I don't know how to survive. She looked up at the sky, her eyes filled with tears she no longer tried to hide. But I won't run anymore. Her friends held her tightly as the truth settled in. Amara was pregnant, and her life would never be the same again. The rent day came and passed like every other thing in Amara's life, quietly, but with heavy consequences. She was sitting on the floor of her small room one afternoon when loud knocking hit the door. Amara, the landlord shouted. Open this door now. Her heart jumped. She already knew why he was there. She stood slowly and opened the door. The landlord stood with his hands on his waist, anger written all over his face. You think this is a charity house? He snapped. You've not paid rent for 2 months. Amara lowered her head. Please, sir, she said softly. I just need a little more time. He laughed bitterly. Time? Did time pay me last month? I lost my brother, she said, her voice shaking. I've been sick. I'm trying to find work. He looked her up and down, his eyes stopping on her stomach. Trying, he said with disgust. So this is what you're doing now. Amara's hands went to her belly without thinking. Get out, the landlord said sharply. I don't want problems in my house. You have till evening. Please, she begged, dropping to her knees. I have nowhere to go. He stepped back. That's not my business, he replied coldly. By sunset, this room must be empty. He walked away, leaving the door wide open. Amara sat there for a long time, staring at the walls that had held her pain, her prayers, her brother's last breath. She packed her few clothes into a small bag. When she stepped outside, neighbors watched her. "That's the girl," one woman whispered. "The one that got pregnant without a husband." "She looks innocent, but who knows?" another replied. Their words cut deep, but Amara kept walking. That night, she slept outside with her friends. Hunger and shame pressed heavily on her heart. Days later, the weight of reality became unbearable. One evening, Ruth sat beside her and spoke quietly. "Amara, have you thought about ending it?" Amara looked at her slowly. "Ending what?" "The pregnancy," Ngozi added softly. "You're suffering already. This child will make life harder." Amara's chest tightened. "I know," she whispered. Ruth held her hand. "You don't have money. You don't have shelter. Society is already cruel. Think about yourself." Amara closed her eyes. That night, she could not sleep. Her mind was loud. Fear, hunger, judgment, all screaming at once. She remembered Daniel's face. His weak smile. His voice. "Life is precious, big sister," he had once said. "Even when it hurts." Tears rolled down her face. "I can't," she whispered into the darkness. "I already lost him. I won't destroy another life." The next morning, she told her friends, "I will keep the baby." Ngozi cried, "Amara, life will be very hard." "I know," Amara replied calmly, "but this is the only thing left that still feels right." She stood up, placing her hand on her stomach. Society had judged her. Life had broken her. But in that moment, she chose life, not because it was easy, but because it was all she had left. The night came with heavy rain and pain. Amara felt it first as a dull ache in her back. She tried to ignore it, thinking it was hunger or stress. But the pain returned, stronger this time, spreading through her body like fire. She bent forward and held her stomach. "No, not now," she whispered. Another pain hit her, sharp and sudden. She cried out softly. Ruth looked up from where she was lying. "Amara, what is it?" Amara's face was pale. I think the baby is coming." Ngozi sat up quickly. "Now? But it's too early." A loud cry escaped Amara's mouth as another contraction tore through her. Rain leaked through the broken roof, dripping onto the floor. "We need to take her to a hospital," Ruth said in panic. "With what money?" Ngozi replied, her voice shaking. Amara shook her head slowly, tears rolling down her face. "There's no time," she whispered. "I can't walk." The pain came again, stronger than before. Amara screamed, gripping the floor. "Amara, hold on," Ruth cried. "Please, try." Hours passed like years. Amara lay on the cold floor, screaming, sweating, crying, biting her lips to stop herself from shouting too loud. There was no doctor, no nurse, no mother, just pain and fear. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I'm dying." Ngozi knelt beside her, crying helplessly. "Please, Amara, breathe, breathe." "I'm scared," Amara cried. "Daniel, help me." And then, with one final scream that ripped through the night, the baby came. A weak cry filled the room. The sound froze everyone. "It's a boy," Ruth whispered, tears streaming down her face. Amara lay still, breathing heavily. Her whole body shook. When they placed the baby on her chest, she broke down completely. "My baby," she cried softly. "You're alive." She looked at his tiny face, red and wrinkled, his eyes tightly shut. "Daniel," she whispered. "Your name is Daniel." Her tears dropped onto his small body. "You will live," she said through sobs. "You will live for both of you." Days passed. Food was scarce. Sometimes there was nothing at all. Amara sat on a broken chair, her baby in her arms. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She brought the baby to her breast. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "This is all I have." The baby sucked weakly. Tears rolled down Amara's cheeks as she watched him feed. "Eat, my son," she said softly. "Please grow." Ngozi watched from the corner, wiping her eyes. "Amara, you need food too." Amara shook her head. "If only one of us can eat," she said quietly. "Let it be him." She hugged her baby close, rocking him gently as tears fell silently. In that moment, With empty hands and a full heart, Amara chose hope, wrapped in pain, named after love, and held against her breaking chest. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of a baby sucking and Amara's slow, broken breathing. She sat on the floor, her back resting against the wall, her legs stretched out in front of her. The baby lay in her arms, pressed close to her chest. Her blouse was open, her body weak, her stomach empty. She had not eaten since the day before. Even then, it was only a small piece of bread. Tears rolled down her face as she watched her baby struggle to feed. "I'm sorry," she whispered again and again. "I'm so sorry." The baby cried softly, frustrated, hungry. Amara adjusted him gently and tried to calm him. "Please, please take it," she begged quietly. "This is all I have." Her breast felt light. Her body had little to give. Hunger had taken its toll. Still, she forced herself to stay strong, rocking him slowly. Ngozi stood nearby, holding an empty bowl. "Amara," she said softly, "you need to eat something. You won't have strength like this." Amara shook her head without looking up. "If I eat and he goes hungry, I won't forgive myself." Ruth joined them, her eyes filled with tears. "This life is too hard," she whispered. "No one will blame you if you give him up. An orphanage, maybe someone richer." Amara's head snapped up. Her eyes burned. "No," she said firmly. "Never say that again." Ruth froze. "Amara, we are just worried about you." "I know," Amara replied, her voice shaking but strong. "But this child is mine. He is all I have left." She looked down at the baby and touched his cheek gently. "I already lost my brother," she whispered. "I will not lose you too." The baby finally settled, his small body relaxing against her chest. Amara closed her eyes, tears still falling. "I promise you," she said softly, like an oath. "No matter how hard life gets, no matter how poor I become, I will never abandon you." Her stomach growled loudly. She laughed weakly through tears. "Hear that?" she said softly to the baby. "Mama is hungry, but she's strong." Days turned into weeks. Poverty grew worse. Sometimes there was no food at all. Sometimes the rain soaked their clothes. Sometimes Amara went to bed dizzy from hunger. But every morning, she stood up again. She carried her baby on her back and went out to look for work. People laughed at her. Some shook their heads. Some whispered, "That girl is suffering too much. She should have given up the child." Amara heard them, but she kept walking. Each hardship made her stronger. Each tear hardened her resolve. Each night she survived felt like a victory. One evening, as she rocked her baby under the fading sky, Ngozi whispered, "I don't know how you're doing this." Amara looked at her child and smiled weakly. "I don't know either," she said. "But I must." Poverty had taken almost everything from her, but it could not take her strength. Life did not wait for Amara to heal. Hunger knocked every morning, and she answered it with tired legs and a brave face. She took any job she could find. Some days, she cleaned houses from morning till night. She scrubbed floors until her fingers burned and her back screamed. Women watched her closely, afraid she would steal something. When she finished, they counted their plates and coins before paying her small money. "Take it or leave it," one woman said, dropping coins into Amara's palm. "Thank you," Amara replied softly, even when the money could not buy food. Other days, she hawked sachet water under the hot sun, her baby tied tightly to her back. Her throat dried as she shouted, "Pure water! Cold water!" People passed without looking. Some laughed. "Go home," a man said. "This is no place for a woman with a baby." At night, when there was nothing left, she begged. She hated it. Each time, it felt like her dignity was being torn apart. She stood by the roadside, her eyes low, her baby sleeping on her back. "Please," she whispered. "Anything you can spare." Some ignored her. Some insulted her. "You're young. Why don't you work?" One woman snapped. Amara wanted to scream, "I am working. I am trying." But she swallowed the words and moved on. Ngozi and Ruth worried for her. "This life will kill you," Ruth said one evening. "You can't keep begging." "I know," Amara replied quietly. "But my baby must eat." One morning, as she stood near a dusty road, she heard shouting and loud hammering. A new building was rising from the ground. Men carried blocks and cement under the sun. Amara stared at them for a long time. She walked closer and spoke to the supervisor. "Sir, I can work," she said. He looked at her from head to toe. "You?" He laughed. "This is hard work." "I'm strong," she replied. "Please." He noticed the baby on her back. "You're joking," he said. "Go away." Amara did not move. "I'll do anything," she said. "Just pay me." The man sighed. "If you can push a wheelbarrow, you can stay." That was how Amara became a construction worker. Every morning, before the sun rose fully, she tied her baby to her back and pushed a heavy wheelbarrow filled with bricks. The sun burned her skin. Sweat soaked her clothes. Dust entered her mouth and eyes. Men laughed as she passed. "Look at her," one shouted. "A woman carrying blocks like a man." Another laughed. "And with a baby too. Madness." Amara said nothing. She pushed on. Her hands cracked and bled. Blisters formed and burst. At night, her body ached so badly she could not sleep. She soaked her hands in water and cried silently so her baby would not hear. Ngozi touched her swollen hands one night and gasped, "Amara, this is too much." Amara shook her head slowly. "Tomorrow, I will go again." "Why?" Ruth asked through tears. "Why are you punishing yourself?" Amara looked at her sleeping baby and whispered, "Because no one else will save us." Each night ended the same way. Amara lying awake, her muscles burning, tears soaking the mat beneath her head. But every morning, she stood up again. Poverty was breaking her body, but it was forging her strength. The construction site was never kind to Amara. From the first day, eyes followed her everywhere she went. Men stopped working just to stare as she pushed the wheelbarrow, her baby tied firmly to her back with an old wrapper. Sweat ran down her face. Dust covered her hair. Still, she kept moving. "Hey, woman," one worker shouted, laughing loudly. "Is this a building site or a daycare?" The others burst into laughter. "Maybe the baby will help her carry the bricks," another mocked. Amara lowered her head and pushed the wheelbarrow harder. One man shook his head dramatically. "I've never seen madness like this. Carrying blocks with a child on your back." "Is that your husband's work?" another asked cruelly. "Or did you forget where babies come from?" The laughter cut deep, but Amara said nothing. She focused on her steps. One step, then another. If she stopped to answer, she might break. Sometimes, when the baby cried from the heat, the men laughed even more. "Tell your child to be quiet," one shouted. "We are working here." Amara stopped briefly and adjusted the wrapper, whispering softly to her baby, "Please, my love. Just a little more." The supervisor watched but said nothing. Work was work. Pain did not matter. By afternoon, the sun burned like fire. Amara's hand shook as she lifted bricks. Her palms were full of blisters, some already broken and bleeding. Each push of the wheelbarrow sent pain shooting through her arms and back. Ngozi came to the site one day and stood at a distance, watching. "She will die here," Ngozi whispered to Ruth. "Look at her." Ruth shook her head, tears in her eyes. "Amara," she called out. "Please stop this. Come home." Amara wiped her face and walked over slowly. "If I stop," she said quietly, "we won't eat tonight." Ruth grabbed her cracked hands gently. "Your hands are broken." Amara pulled them back. "They will heal." "This place is killing you," Ngozi said. "The insults, the work, the baby." Amara's eyes hardened, not with anger, but with resolve. "My baby will not starve because people laugh," she said. That night, Amara returned to her small room barely able to walk. She untied the wrapper and laid her baby down gently. Her whole body throbbed. Her hands were swollen and red, deep lines cut into her skin. She soaked them in water and bit her lip to stop herself from crying out loud. "I'm okay," she whispered to the baby, even as tears rolled silently down her face. "Mama is strong." When the baby finally slept, Amara lay down beside him. Pain filled every part of her body. Her hands burned. Her back screamed. Her chest felt heavy with all the words she never spoke. She turned her face to the wall and cried quietly, so no one would hear. No loud sobs. Just silent tears soaking into the mat. In the darkness, she whispered, "Please let tomorrow be easier." But even as hope felt thin, she knew one thing, Morning would come, and she would rise again. The construction site woke that morning with unusual noise. Workers whispered as they lifted blocks. Supervisors checked their phones again and again. Everyone moved faster, sharper, afraid to make mistakes. "The owner is coming today," someone said. The words spread like fire. "The real owner?" another asked. "Yes, the billionaire himself." Fear entered the air. Men straightened their backs. Jokes stopped. Even the supervisor wiped sweat from his face nervously. Amara heard it too, but she kept working. Her body was already weak from days without rest. The sun was harsh. Her baby was restless on her back. "Be careful today," Ngozi whispered to her when she came by the fence. "Big people are coming." Amara nodded. "I'll just do my work," she said quietly. Then it happened. A deep engine sound rolled into the site. A shiny black G-Wagon stopped near the entrance. Dust rose around it. Conversations died instantly. "That's him," someone whispered. "God help us," another muttered. Amara was pushing a heavy wheelbarrow full of bricks. Sweat blinded her eyes. Her arms shook. Her legs felt like they would give way. "Move," someone shouted. She tried to turn, but her strength failed her. The wheelbarrow slipped. Crash! The metal hit the car. Glass shattered. The headlight broke. A long scratch ran across the car's body. The site exploded into noise. Jesus! She's finished. She will be jailed. That car is worth more than her life. Amara froze. Her heart stopped. She dropped the wheelbarrow and grabbed her baby tightly. Her whole body trembled. "I'm dead," she whispered. "I'm dead." The G-Wagon door opened slowly. The billionaire stepped out. Tall, powerful, angry. His face was dark with fury. The air felt heavy as he walked toward the damaged car. "Who did this?" he demanded. No one spoke. Workers stepped back, pointing slowly at Amara. "It was her," someone said. "The woman with the baby." Amara felt the ground slip beneath her feet. She fell to her knees. "I'm sorry," she cried. "Please. I didn't mean to." She hugged her baby tighter, shaking violently. The billionaire turned. He looked at her. His eyes were sharp, dangerous. Then, he froze. His anger paused. His breath caught. Because the woman kneeling in the dust, the woman holding a baby on her back, was a face he never expected to see again. And in that moment, the past rose up to meet him. Leonard stepped forward slowly, his tall frame cutting a sharp silhouette against the morning sun. Dust swirled around the construction site, but it seemed to part just for him, carrying only his presence. His eyes, dark and intense, fixed on the woman kneeling in the dirt, clutching her baby tightly to her chest. His lips parted slightly, and his voice came out, low and soft, almost like a secret no one else should hear. "Amara." The word was gentle, almost tender, but it carried weight, authority, and recognition all at once. The sound seemed to travel across the site like a ripple. Tools clanged, workers shouted, but suddenly, everything stopped. Conversations froze mid-word. Men dropped bricks in shock. Women held their hands to their mouths. Even the wind seemed to still. Amara's body froze. Her heart skipped violently in her chest. She looked up, and those two syllables, his voice calling her name, struck something deep inside her, something she had buried under fear, grief, and endless nights of struggle. Her eyes widened as a shiver ran through her body. "El Leonard," she whispered, her voice trembling so much it barely rose above the sound of the baby's quiet cries. Her knees buckled slightly, but she stayed on the ground, clutching her child as though holding him close might make the world stop spinning. Her mind raced in a blur. Memories of the past came crashing back. The hospital. The money. The impossible choice. The shame she had carried silently all these years. Leonard took another step forward, his expression unreadable at first, a flicker of something, confusion, shock, disbelief, crossing his face. He looked at her as if trying to reconcile the strong, ragged, exhausted woman kneeling in the dirt with the gentle, hopeful girl he had once known. "Amara," he repeated, a little louder this time, but still soft, almost reverent. "It's really you." Amara's hands tightened around her baby. Her tears flowed freely now, warm and unstoppable, streaming down her dirt-streaked cheeks. The world felt suspended in that moment, every sound muted except for Leonard's voice and the soft whimpers of a child. "Yes, it's me," she managed to whisper through her sobs. I remember you." The workers around them were frozen, staring in disbelief. Their previous chaos, laughter, and scolding were gone, swallowed by the silence of recognition. No one dared move. Leonard stepped closer, his gaze never leaving her face. His voice, soft but steady, spoke her name again. Amara. It wasn't a word spoken in anger, or power, or judgment. It was her name spoken with memory, with acknowledgement, with something raw and unspoken between them. It shook her, unsteadying her breath, unraveling the years of pain she had wrapped herself in. She pressed her face into her baby's small back, clutching him tighter, trembling violently, whispering, "Yes, it's really me, it's really me." And in that long, suspended moment, with the sight frozen around them, Amara understood. Her past, her pain, and all the choices she had made had led her to this instant. And Leonard's soft, deliberate call of her name felt like the first thread of hope she had felt in years, fragile but undeniable, pulling her towards something she had long feared she would never have again. Amara's knees hit the dusty ground with a dull thud, and she crumpled forward, clutching her baby to her chest. Her body shook violently, tears streaming down her face in hot, unrelenting waves. The wheelbarrow she had dropped, the broken headlight, the scorching sun, it all became distant, meaningless noise. Her mind was consumed entirely by the voice, by the face, by the name that had awakened memories she had tried so hard to bury. Leonard. The name alone tore through her. She remembered the cold luxury of his mansion, the power in his every movement, the impossible choice he had forced upon her, the shame, the tears, the emptiness. She remembered the hospital, the money, Daniel lying lifeless before her. Every memory, every heartbreak, came rushing back like a river breaking through a dam. She stammered, her voice breaking, as though she were choking on the years of pain. I remember you. Her tears fell faster now, soaking the wrapper that held her baby, wetting his small, soft hair. Her body convulsed in grief and shame, in disbelief and desperation, in a flood of emotions that had been trapped inside her for years. She could not stop crying. She could not stop shaking. Workers froze, staring in shock. Their mouths hung open. Some whispered to each other, barely able to believe what they were seeing. You know her?" one man asked, his voice hushed. It's her," another whispered. "The girl from years ago." Amara pressed her face into her baby's back, rocking him gently even as her own sobs shook her. Her voice was low, trembling with every syllable. "Yes, it's me. I remember everything." Leonard stood a few feet away, his own expression unreadable, but the soft look in his eyes betrayed recognition, surprise, and something unspoken, something that reached into the deepest parts of her. He took a slow step forward, his presence commanding even in silence. The workers murmured among themselves, eyes wide. "She's crying like that, she knows him." "Yes, they know each other," someone said softly. "That's why she's like this." Amara's hands clutched her baby tighter. She couldn't speak fully, couldn't form complete sentences. The memories were too heavy, too sharp, slicing through her chest with every heartbeat. She remembered the first time she had seen him after Daniel's death, the fear, the desperation, the impossible choices. And now, here he was again, real, standing before her, calling her name softly, shaking the foundation of everything she had tried to endure. I didn't expect," she gasped between sobs, barely able to finish her thought. Her knees sank further into the dirt. Her tears fell like rain. The baby whimpered, sensing her distress, and she murmured softly to him, Sure, it's okay, my love, it's okay." Around them, the world had ceased to exist. The workers watched, frozen in shock, gossip fading into silence. The only sound was Amara's crying, the soft rustle of the baby, and the quiet, steady presence of Leonard, who had seen the truth of her pain in that single, unforgettable moment. And in that moment, everything Amara had suffered, every lonely night, every pang of hunger, every judgmental stare, every cruel word from the world, it all came rushing back. But for the first time, in the midst of her uncontrollable sobs, there was something else, something fragile, trembling, and new. Hope. Leonard's eyes fell on the baby in Amara's arms. At first, his gaze was sharp, almost fiery, filled with the anger he had felt the moment he saw his car. But as he looked closer, the hard lines of his face softened. He noticed the shape of the baby's nose, exactly like his. The eyes, dark and round, the same as his own when he was a child. Even the small curve of the mouth, the way the baby's brows furrowed slightly, was familiar. For a long moment, he just stared. Confusion replaced fury. His voice caught in his throat. "Stop," he said to the crowd behind him. "Everyone, get back. Now." The workers hesitated, shocked, but slowly obeyed, scattering to the edges of the site, whispering among themselves. Amara watched silently, her body trembling, her hands holding her baby tighter. Leonard stepped closer, his eyes never leaving the child. He reached out a hand slowly, hesitating, unsure. "Amara," he said, his voice softer than it had ever been before. "Come with me. Get into the car." Amara shook her head, afraid. "No. Now," he said firmly, but not harshly. There was no anger left, only an urgency she had never heard in him. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady, and he offered his arm. She touched it lightly, like she wasn't sure if it was real. The baby squirmed against her chest, and she whispered softly, Sure, it's okay, my love." Leonard guided her gently toward the G-Wagon. The baby looked up, and he froze again, the same small face, the same tiny expressions he remembered seeing in himself. He opened the door and helped Amara inside, sitting beside her while carefully taking the baby in his arms for a moment. The engine started. The world outside blurred into motion. Amara clutched her child, staring out the window, trembling, unable to speak. Leonard didn't say anything either. The silence between them was heavy, charged, but not uncomfortable. It was filled with questions, with shock, with memories waiting to spill out. After a few minutes, Leonard finally spoke, softly, carefully. "Tell me everything." Amara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She started slowly, her voice shaking. "My brother, Daniel, he was sick. The hospital. They said I had to pay the money or bring him home. I tried." Her lips trembled. "I tried to save him, but it was too late." Leonard's hand went to his face, and he was silent. He didn't interrupt. His usual cold detachment had disappeared. She continued, "I went to you. I begged. I did what you asked. I sold my mother's necklace. I went. Her voice broke completely, and tears streamed down her cheeks. I lost him anyway." Leonard's jaw tightened. He looked down at the baby in her arms, then back at her face, guilt tightening his chest. Amara pressed the baby to her breast instinctively. "And, after that, I realized I was pregnant, with your child. I tried to survive. I worked. I did everything, and every day was harder than the last. I had no home, no help. I suffered. Her voice cracked, and she couldn't finish. She pressed her head against the baby's back and shook violently. Leonard didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stared, silent, shaken, guilt-stricken, unable to reconcile the years of choices, pain, and loss he had set in motion. Ngozi and Ruth's warnings, the whispers of judgment from strangers, the endless nights of work, the hunger, the tears, the wheelbarrow full of bricks, all of it had led to this moment. And Leonard, the man who had held the power to change everything, finally understood in a way he could not ignore. The car moved in silence through quiet streets. Rain-slick pavements reflected the city lights, but inside, only the baby's soft breathing and Amara's quiet sobs filled the space. Leonard's hands rested on the steering wheel, knuckles white. He looked down at her once, and she met his gaze through blurred tears, her face pale, her lips trembling. I did everything I could," she whispered, her voice raw and broken. "Please, just understand." Leonard swallowed hard. He didn't say anything, because no words felt enough. His anger, his pride, his detachment, all of it had dissolved. What remained was a gnawing, crushing guilt and the impossible weight of the truth. She had suffered, carried his child, lost a brother, survived unimaginable hardship, and yet she was still here, alive, holding hope in her arms. The quiet ride stretched on, every second heavy with unsaid words, until finally, somewhere safe, Leonard turned to her. His eyes were wet, his voice low. "Amara, I don't know what to say." Amara shook her head, exhausted beyond words. She held her baby tighter. Just listen," she said softly. "That's all I need." And Leonard listened silent, broken, finally realizing the full weight of what had happened. The choices, the suffering, the years of pain he had ignored, and the fragile life they now both shared in the small trembling child in her arms. The next morning, Leonard arranged for a discreet DNA test. Everything was done quietly, away from the prying eyes of the city, the gossiping workers, the world outside. Amara sat in the small rented room, her baby in her arms, exhausted from the nights of crying, the days of work, the endless worry. Leonard's presence was silent but firm, watching over her, making sure nothing was missed. When the results came back, Leonard held the paper in his hand. His eyes scanned it slowly, over and over, until there was no doubt. The child, her baby, was his. He felt something he had never felt before. Shock, confusion, a strange, heavy mix of awe and fear. He looked at the small sleeping face in Amara's arms, the tiny fingers curling around her chest, the delicate rise and fall of the infant's breathing. The resemblance was undeniable. The baby had his eyes, his nose, the same stubborn set to the jaw he had seen in himself reflected in the little one. Leonard did not speak. He simply sat quietly in the corner, watching Amara, who had finally succumbed to exhaustion. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. Her hair was tangled, her skin smudged with dirt and tears, her clothes torn from labor and hardship. But even in sleep, even in weariness, there was something unbroken about her, a strength he had never seen in the polished women he had surrounded himself with, the women who had come and gone in the whirl of his life, objects of desire but never of real consequence. As he watched her, memories flashed through his mind. Nights he had spent with women, his cold detachment, the shallow games of wealth and lust. Faces he had used for pleasure and discarded for convenience. Every smile that had been empty, every kiss that had been hollow. And now, standing here, looking at Amara and the child he had fathered unknowingly, he felt something new, shame. Real, deep shame. Shame that he had taken advantage of a desperate girl. Shame that his power, his wealth, had forced choices upon her that no one should ever face. Shame that his indifference had cost a life, Danielus, and that his actions had brought suffering he had never imagined. Leonard leaned back in the chair, his hands trembling slightly. He had always believed that money and influence could solve everything, but now he realized how powerless he had been in the face of human suffering. No amount of wealth could undo the nights Amara had cried, the hunger she had endured, the wheelbarrows she had pushed under the burning sun. He looked at the baby again, soft and innocent, unaware of the world's cruelty. Leonard's chest tightened. A vow formed silently, firmly, in the deepest part of him. He would take responsibility. Not out of pity, not out of guilt alone, but because it was the right thing to do. Because this child was his blood, and Amara, torn, suffering, broken, yet unbowed, deserved something better than what he had given her. He rose and moved quietly to her side. Amara shifted in her sleep, murmuring softly. Leonard knelt beside her, his eyes on her face. "I will take care of you," he whispered. "I will protect you. I won't fail you again." He rested a hand gently on the baby's small head, feeling the warmth of life he had created unknowingly. For the first time, Leonard felt the weight of his actions. For the first time, he understood humility. For the first time, he understood love, not the shallow, fleeting kind, but something raw, real, and binding. He stayed there for hours, watching her sleep, listening to the quiet breathing of both mother and child, letting the silence fill the room. Outside, the world went on, cruel and indifferent, but inside that small space, Leonard Kingsley made a silent promise. He would be a father. He would be a protector. He would be the man Amara deserved. And nothing, no power, no money, no pride, would ever allow him to forget that. After the DNA results confirmed the truth, Leonard made his first decision. Amara and the baby would have a home. Not a mansion filled with staff and luxury, not a life designed for show, but a space where they could be safe, warm, and protected. He found a modest house on the outskirts of the city. Nothing extravagant, nothing that would draw attention, but enough walls to keep the world's cruelty out. He handed her the keys personally, but there was no demand, no controlling grip. "This is yours," he said softly. "You live here as you wish. I'm only asking, let me help." Amara studied him warily. I don't want charity," she said, her voice steady but cautious. "I don't want anyone controlling my life, or my child's." Leonard nodded. "You won't. I won't control you. I just want to make sure you're safe. That's all." The first few weeks were quiet. Leonard arranged for therapy for Amara. She had nightmares, memories that clawed at her during the night, and grief that weighed her down like a stone. The therapist helped her begin to untangle the years of suffering, though every session was painful. Leonard stayed nearby, waiting outside the clinic, never pressuring her to talk, never intruding, only silently making sure she had the support she needed. He learned slowly how to be a father. At first, he was awkward, unsure how to hold the baby, how to soothe him when he cried. Amara watched him from across the room, silent, her eyes skeptical. "Here," she said one evening, placing the baby in his arms. "He's hungry." Leonard stiffened, but he tried. He fed the baby, fumbling at first, spilling milk, his hand shaking. The baby whimpered, then settled, and Leonard exhaled slowly, feeling something unfamiliar swell in his chest. Responsibility, fear, love, all mingled together. Amara's trust did not come easily. Every action he took, she measured. Every word he spoke, she considered. She had been used, abandoned, judged all her life. Could she believe someone who had once taken so much from her could now be genuine? Leonard did not ask for her trust in words. He showed it in actions. He arrived on time to help when she needed a hand. He repaired broken things in their small house without complaint. He helped with bills, but quietly, without making it about money. He carried the baby when she was too tired, stayed awake when she was anxious, listened when she wanted to speak. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to grow between them. It wasn't passion or forced affection. It wasn't hurried or superficial. It was respect. It was patience. It was understanding. Leonard never pressured her to feel anything more than she could, and Amara began to see glimpses of the man he could be, gentle, thoughtful, capable of remorse and care. Some days were still hard. Some nights, the memories of the past crept in, and Amara would curl up with the baby, shaking, eyes wet, unsure if Leonard could ever truly belong in her life. But he stayed. Always. Steady. Silent when silence was needed. Supportive when action mattered. One evening, she caught him quietly feeding the baby when she had fallen asleep early. He smiled softly when she stirred, whispering, "He's yours. I'm just here to help." It wasn't the money that impressed her. It wasn't gifts or grand gestures. It was the constancy, the care, the quiet respect. It was him showing up, not for appearances, not to fix her with wealth, but to help her carry the weight she had borne alone for so long. And slowly, almost without noticing, Amara's walls began to soften. She still had doubts, still had fears. But in the space between them, a fragile trust began to take root, and with it, the first glimmer of something more: hope, safety, and, maybe one day, love. Months passed, and the quiet life they had begun together slowly unfolded into something neither of them expected. Leonard had stayed by Amara's side, quietly, patiently, learning the rhythms of her world, the needs of their child, and the fragility of her trust. And as he grew into his role as a father, he realized there was one step he could no longer delay. He wanted the world to see her, not as a secret, not as a mistake, not as a girl to be hidden, but as the woman who had carried his child, survived unimaginable hardship, and demanded respect through every trial. One evening, he took her to a formal gathering, a dinner filled with people of wealth and influence. The halls were glittering, voices humming with power, laughter polished with sophistication. Leonard's presence alone turned heads, but when he approached, arm extended toward Amara, murmuring gently, "Come with me," the room went silent. Amara's heart pounded. Her ragged past, her broken life, her fears, they all crowded her chest. She had faced judgment from neighbors, from strangers, even from those who called themselves friends. And now, she was stepping into a world that had once been completely closed to her. As Leonard guided her to the center of the hall, he spoke in a voice calm but firm. "This is Amara," he said, looking around. "The mother of my child. The woman I respect more than anyone else I have ever known." Whispers rippled through the room like wildfire. Some were admiring. Some were scornful. Elite society rarely welcomed those from the margins, and Amara's presence, honest and unpolished, drew harsh criticism. She's wearing that," someone muttered. "Is he serious?" another asked. "She's not from here, from our world." Leonard ignored them. His hand tightened slightly around hers. "I do not care what anyone else thinks," he said softly but decisively. "She is my partner, my family, and I will not hide her." Amara's eyes filled with tears. She looked down at her hands, shaking slightly. The weight of shame and judgment pressed on her, but Leonard's steady gaze gave her courage. For the first time in her life, someone of immense power and influence chose her freely, without conditions, without pity, without expectation, simply because he saw her, truly saw her. Weeks later, in the quiet of their home, Leonard knelt before her. The baby slept peacefully in a nearby crib, unaware of the significance of the moment. "Amara," he said, his voice low, honest, and trembling slightly, "I have wronged you in ways I cannot undo. I have caused pain, suffering, shame, and yet, you survived. You carried my child. You lived through the worst and still, you exist with strength and dignity. I cannot ask you to forget. I cannot ask you to forgive me with words alone, but I want to spend my life proving it. Will you marry me?" Amara stared at him, her mind flooded with memories of the past years. The hospital, Daniel, the wheelbarrows, the nights of hunger, the tears, the pain, and yet, the patience, the care, the unwavering presence he had shown now. Her heart wrestled with fear and hope, pain and love. I need time," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I will wait," he said. "As long as you need. I only ask that you consider it, not because I saved you, but because I want to be a man worthy of standing beside you." Days turned into nights. Amara walked through memories, revisited her pain, weighed her fears. She thought of Daniel, of the child in her arms, of the strength that had carried her through every trial. She remembered Leonard, not as a man who had caused her suffering, but as a man who had chosen to stay, who had learned to love through humility, through action, not through money. Finally, one quiet evening, she sat across from him in their small home, the baby asleep between them. She took a deep breath, looked into his eyes, and whispered, "Yes, I will marry you." Leonard's eyes filled with emotion, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and love. He took her hands gently, bowing his head. "I will spend every day proving that I deserve your trust." And in that moment, surrounded by the echoes of past pain and the fragile hope of the future, Amara and Leonard began a new chapter. Not one born of power, money, or control, but of respect, forgiveness, and a love that had been forged slowly through hardship, patience, and unwavering action. The world could judge them if it wished, but they had chosen each other, truly, fully, and without compromise. The day of the wedding was simple, quiet, and filled with emotion. There were no grand chandeliers, no endless guests, no displays of wealth meant to impress. Just a small garden, sunlight filtering gently through the trees, and the soft hum of birds in the background. Flowers in muted colors decorated the space, and a few close friends and family stood by, witnesses to the love and resilience that had brought them here. Amara walked down the short aisle, her step steady, her head held high. Her dress was simple, elegant, but it could not conceal the strength that radiated from her. She no longer carried the weight of shame, fear, or despair. She had survived the impossible, raised her child alone, and finally, she was walking into a life she had earned, one of love, respect, and hope. Her child, tiny hands gripping hers, walked beside her. Every step was careful, deliberate, but full of trust. Amara looked down at him, smiled softly, and whispered, "Look, my love, we made it here." The few onlookers who had once mocked her, laughed at her, or doubted her ability to survive, now watched in stunned silence. Their whispers barely carried over the soft breeze. "Is that really her? She looks different, confident. I can't believe it." Leonard waited at the front, his eyes fixed on her with a mixture of awe and tenderness. He stepped forward, taking her hands in his, feeling the life they had built together and the love that had grown slowly but surely. "Amara," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of every apology, every act of care, every moment he had devoted to proving himself to her. "You are everything I ever needed, and more than I deserve. I love you." Amara met his gaze, her eyes glistening with tears. She squeezed his hands, feeling the honesty in every word. "I love you too," she whispered. "And I trust you, now, completely." Their child laughed softly, tugging at both of their hands, bridging the gap between past pain and future joy. Together, they formed a small, unbreakable family. The ceremony was quiet, intimate, filled with heartfelt vows rather than extravagant promises. As they exchanged rings, the sunlight caught the tears on Amara's cheeks, highlighting the journey from despair to triumph, from shame to love. When the ceremony ended, Leonard lifted her hand gently, and she smiled, confident and radiant. The child clapped, giggling, and Amara laughed softly, the sound light and free. Former mockers, former critics, the whispers of society, all of it faded into nothing. What mattered was not wealth, not approval, not appearances. What mattered was resilience, respect, and love earned the hard way. Amara walked forward, not broken, not afraid, but whole. Leonard by her side, their child between them, they stepped into a new life together, one built not on power or money, but on trust, devotion, and the quiet, unshakable strength of a woman who had survived it all. Years passed, and the scars of the past slowly transformed into purpose and strength. Amara, once a young woman forced into impossible choices, had grown into a force of compassion. She established a charity for poor women, a place where those in desperate circumstances could find help, guidance, and hope. She remembered every hardship, every tear, every sleepless night, and she used those memories to lift others out of despair. Leonard, too, had changed. The man who once wielded wealth and power without thought now measured his life in care, in humility, and in love. He learned to listen, to serve, and to cherish the quiet, honest moments that had once seemed small and insignificant. The mistakes of the past haunted him, but they also guided him, shaping him into a man capable of true responsibility and deep, unwavering devotion. Their home, once a refuge of necessity, had grown into a warm, lively place. Laughter echoed through the rooms. Their child, now older, ran between them, calling out jokes and questions, filling the air with the purest sound of happiness. Amara smiled more easily, Leonard's hand always near hers, their love steady, unforced, and strong. Even on quiet evenings, when the city hummed outside, they would sit together, holding hands, watching the sun set through the windows, grateful for the life they had fought to claim. The shadows of hardship still lingered, but they no longer ruled. They had been transformed into strength, empathy, and love. And in one small, peaceful moment, Amara whispered to Leonard, her voice soft but certain, "Sometimes, life doesn't just give you a second chance, it forces you to become worthy of it." Leonard squeezed her hand, a smile touching his lips, and together, they faced the future, stronger, wiser, and unbreakable.